What if a kid, barely old enough to drive, claimed that humanity had already opened a portal to another dimension? And what if that same claim stopped Joe Rogan mid-sentence, leaving him staring at the screen in disbelief? Is it possible that the world's most powerful science experiment, the Large Hadron Collider at CERN, has already done something far beyond what we were told? Or is this just another internet-fueled myth spiraling out of control? This is the story that's got scientists, skeptics, and millions of Joe Rogan listeners asking the same question. What exactly is happening beneath the Franco-Swiss border? And could a boy genius have uncovered something no one was supposed to know? The claim that shook the internet. It started with a short clip that spread across social media like wildfire. A young prodigy, just 13 years old, sitting in front of a microphone, confidently stating that CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, had opened a portal to another dimension. His name? Max Laughlin. A Nevada-born child genius, with an IQ reportedly estimated above 190. By age 12, he had already completed college-level physics courses online. He built a working miniature fusion reactor in his family's garage, something only a handful of teens worldwide had ever achieved. So when he appeared in a podcast interview and made that bold claim, the world took notice. His words were calm, deliberate, and chilling. CERN isn't just smashing particles, he said. They're tearing at the fabric of space-time, and when they crossed a certain energy threshold last year, something changed. Within hours, clips of his statement began circulating. Some laughed it off, others felt a strange chill, especially when Joe Rogan, the internet's unofficial Grand Inquisitor, played the clip on the Joe Rogan Experience. The Joe Rogan moment. Rogan has seen it all. UFO claims, ancient civilizations, government whistleblowers, simulation theory, and every flavor of conspiracy in between. But this clip hit differently. In the segment that later went viral, Rogan watched the boy speak in silence for nearly 30 seconds. No jokes, no quick dismissals, just that curious, skeptical expression he's known for. Then he leaned forward, half laughing, but not mocking. That's wild, man. I mean, if this kid's right, that's the biggest story in human history. His guest that day, a well-known astrophysicist, tried to temper the conversation. He explained that CERN's Large Hadron Collider, or LHC, had indeed been restarted at record energy levels in recent years. Still, the idea of it opening a portal was, in his words, a misunderstanding of what high-energy collisions actually do. Still, Rogan pressed on. But how can we be sure, man? Like, are we really confident about what happens when you slam particles together at near the speed of light? How do we know we're not punching holes in something we don't understand? That question hung in the air. And it's the question that fueled the fire. CERN, the machine beneath the Earth. To understand why Max Laughlin's statement was so explosive, you have to understand what CERN actually is. Buried nearly 300 feet underground near Geneva, Switzerland, the Large Hadron Collider is the largest and most complex machine ever built. A 17-mile ring lined with superconducting magnets, chilled to temperatures colder than outer space, designed to accelerate protons to 99.9999999% of the speed of light and smash them together. Each collision recreates conditions similar to those a fraction of a second after the Big Bang. The official goal? To understand the fundamental building blocks of matter, how the universe began, why particles have mass, and what invisible forces shape everything we know. In 2012, CERN scientists made history by discovering the Higgs boson, often nicknamed the God particle. That discovery confirmed key aspects of the standard model of physics. But since then, the experiments have only grown more ambitious and more mysterious. CERN's researchers have spoken publicly about searching for extra dimensions, dark matter, and hidden particles that might interact with gravity in strange ways. They've even acknowledged that, in theory, certain collisions could create mini black holes, though they insist these would be microscopic and vanish instantly. But for conspiracy watchers, that's where the reassurance ends. Because when you're dealing with the most powerful particle collisions ever achieved by humankind, how can anyone really know what's possible? The boy genius and his theory. Max Laughlin didn't appear out of nowhere. He had been active in online science communities for years, sharing theories that merged quantum mechanics, consciousness studies, and metaphysics. But his most controversial idea was what he called the resonance field hypothesis. In short, he argued that all matter, every atom, particle, and quantum field is connected through a vibrational resonance that transcends our three-dimensional perception. According to him, when CERN reached a certain collision energy, it disrupted that resonance, effectively weakening the boundary between our universe and others nearby. He wasn't claiming this based on intuition alone. In interviews, he referred to strange anomalies in published CERN data, slight irregularities in particle decay rates, tiny asymmetries that, according to his calculations, couldn't be explained by the standard model alone. He interpreted these as signatures of dimensional interference. Critics were quick to dismiss it as pseudoscience, but some independent physicists admitted privately that the kid's math was, at the very least, interesting. Even those who disagreed couldn't deny his brilliance. One professor who reviewed his work anonymously told reporters, "The math itself is unconventional, but it's coherent. He's not just speculating, he's exploring real gaps in our current understanding." That's what made his warning so haunting. Because Max wasn't saying CERN might open a portal someday. He was saying it had already happened. The internet reacts. The reaction online was immediate and polarized. Skeptics accused Max of chasing viral fame. Believers saw him as a whistleblower from the next generation. Reddit threads exploded with speculation. YouTube channels dissected every sentence, and TikTok flooded with eerie CERN glitch videos, strange cloud patterns, Mandela effect examples, and bizarre coincidences attributed to reality shifts. Even mainstream outlets reluctantly covered it. Headlines read, "Teen prodigy claims CERN has opened a portal. Joe Rogan responds." What made the story so sticky wasn't just the claim, it was who was reacting to it. Rogan's audience is massive, and his brand of open-minded skepticism gave the theory oxygen. When Rogan says, "That's crazy, but what if it's true?" millions of listeners take notice. The internet's favorite phrase, "just asking questions," became the story's fuel. Because once people start asking, the truth becomes a moving target. Science versus speculation. Within weeks, CERN officials responded publicly to the growing rumor. A spokesperson issued a calm statement. "The Large Hadron Collider does not and cannot open portals to other dimensions. Our experiments study particle interactions at subatomic scales that pose no threat to Earth or reality itself." That should have been the end of it. But the denial only made people dig deeper. Because the internet thrives on contradictions, in CERN's history, its secrecy, its complexity, and yes, its symbolism, made it the perfect breeding ground for mystery. For example, right outside the CERN complex stands a 10-foot statue of the Hindu deity Shiva, the cosmic dancer associated with both creation and destruction. To scientists, it's a gift symbolizing the balance of energy in the universe. To conspiracy theorists, it's a clue, a symbolic warning of the forces being unleashed underground. And when Max pointed out that the statue's placement directly above the collider's central ring was metaphysically intentional, his followers treated it as proof. The story had gone from fringe theory to cultural phenomenon. Rogan's dilemma. Behind the microphone, Joe Rogan faced a familiar problem. He's built his reputation on exploring unconventional ideas without endorsing them. But the more he discussed CERN, the deeper the audience engagement grew. Clips of his reaction to Max's claim became some of the most replayed moments of the month. On Reddit and X, fans debated whether Rogan's moment of silence was genuine awe or strategic showmanship. But those close to his production team later admitted, off the record, that Rogan kept referencing the CERN clip even off-air. In a later episode, he said, "You know, man, sometimes I wonder if the smartest people are the ones who see through all the noise. Like, maybe that kid's not wrong. Maybe he's just too early." That quote reignited the fire. Because if there's one thing Rogan understands, it's the power of a well-timed question. The skeptics strike back. Not everyone was impressed. Leading physicists quickly dismissed the entire narrative. Dr. Sabine Hassenfelder, a theoretical physicist and popular science communicator, explained in a detailed blog post, "There's no mechanism in particle physics by which CERN's collisions could open a macroscopic portal. The energy levels are immense by human standards, but cosmically insignificant. The collider doesn't threaten reality, it helps us understand it." Others echoed that sentiment, emphasizing that CERN's energy output is far below natural cosmic rays that bombard Earth daily. If those haven't ripped holes in reality, neither will the LHC. Still, skeptics faced an uphill battle. In the age of viral content, logic often loses to intrigue. The more experts dismissed Max's theory, the more his supporters doubled down. "Of course they'd deny it," one user wrote. "You'd think they'd admit they broke the universe." For believers, every debunk was just another layer of the cover-up. The strange coincidences. Around the same time Max's theory went viral, several strange events were noted by online observers. In July, Geneva experienced an unusual atmospheric phenomenon, swirling clouds above the CERN area that appeared almost circular in formation. Meteorologists explained it as a rare lenticular cloud pattern caused by temperature shifts. But to the conspiracy crowd, it looked eerily like a vortex. A week later, CERN's website briefly went offline due to server maintenance. Within hours, rumors spread that it had been scrubbed after a containment breach. The following month, satellite imagery showing magnetic disturbances in the region became another piece of the puzzle, though scientists later clarified it was caused by solar flare interference. Individually, each event had a rational explanation. Collectively, they formed a pattern for those who wanted one. And as any good storyteller knows, perception often matters more than proof. Genius or warning? So who exactly is Max Laughlin? His background checks out. He's a verified science prodigy. His academic work shows a precocious grasp of physics far beyond his age. But when journalists tried to reach him after the viral clip, he went quiet. His social media accounts vanished. His YouTube channel was wiped. That silence only added to the mystique. Some claimed his parents had been pressured by officials. Others believed he simply retreated to avoid the circus. But among his supporters, the disappearance became part of the narrative. The boy who warned us vanished after telling the truth. Rogan himself addressed it briefly months later, saying, "You know, I don't know what happened to that kid, but I hope he's okay. He's either going to be a Nobel Prize winner someday or the first guy to prove we're not alone in the multiverse." The blend of awe and uncertainty was the perfect note to end on. What the science actually says. Amid all the speculation, what does mainstream science really say? Theoretical physics does allow for the existence of extra dimensions. In some versions of string theory, our universe could be a brain, a three-dimensional membrane floating in higher dimensional space. If that's true, then yes, under certain conditions, energy could potentially leak between dimensions. However, even optimistic estimates suggest this would require energy levels billions of times greater than anything achievable at CERN. So while the idea is fascinating, there's no experimental evidence to suggest it's happening. What makes the debate compelling isn't that it's true, but that it could be. Because humanity's greatest scientific discoveries often began as questions that sounded impossible. Why it resonated? The real reason this story caught fire has less to do with physics and more to do with trust. In an age where institutions feel opaque and technology is advancing faster than the public can follow, stories like this tap into a collective unease. People want to believe in wonder, but they also fear what's hidden from them. Rogan's platform thrives in that space, the gray area between open inquiry and existential dread. He doesn't tell his audience what to believe. He gives them the microphone to ask, what if? And Max Laughlin's claim, true or not, did exactly that. It reignited humanity's oldest question: how much of reality do we truly understand? Beyond the headlines. Months after the uproar faded, CERN continued its experiments as planned. Max remained silent. But every time a strange photo from Geneva surfaced online, the theory resurfaced. You can't kill an idea that powerful. It lives in the gaps of our knowledge. Some people still claim subtle shifts in global consciousness since CERN's energy upgrade. Tiny differences in memory, déjà vu, unexplained phenomena. Scientists call it coincidence. Believers call it evidence. But regardless of which side you're on, the debate itself has value, because it forces us to confront our assumptions about science, trust, and the limits of human understanding. The question that remains: maybe Max Laughlin was wrong. Maybe he misinterpreted data, or maybe he wanted attention. Or maybe, just maybe, he stumbled onto something no one can yet prove or disprove. Joe Rogan once said, "I don't care if it sounds crazy. I care if it's possible." And that's where this story lives, between crazy and possible. Because whether or not CERN opened a portal, one thing is undeniable: it opened our imagination. It made millions of people stop scrolling, lean forward, and think. And in a world drowning in noise, that's its own kind of miracle. The final thought: if the smartest kid alive believes we've already crossed into another dimension, should we laugh or listen? If a multi-billion-dollar machine built to probe the universe might also be bending its boundaries, do we trust the scientists or our instincts? And if Joe Rogan, the man who's made a career out of questioning everything, was left speechless, what does that say about what we don't know? Maybe the truth isn't hiding underground in Switzerland. Maybe it's hiding in our own refusal to imagine what's possible. Because the line between science and mystery has always been thin. And every time we cross it, we discover that the universe is stranger and far more fascinating than we ever believed. If this story made you think twice about what's possible, keep digging. Like, subscribe, ask questions, challenge explanations. Because the moment we stop asking, what if, we stop discovering what's real. Stay blessed and stay curious.